the best fighting the best. I guess, with people a little bit shaky right now on Fury, but I saw Fury and Usyk go literally head to head.
Right.
Like literally, you know
Face
what I'm
to
saying?
face, like,
And then,
you know?
at first I think it caught Usyk off guard, but then when Usyk was prepared for it the second time, you saw the strength in Usyk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he didn't back down, you know?
Yeah,
He,
kind of
he was
pushing
ready,
Fury.
prepared for it. Yep.
Yeah, so Fury's trying to play mind games with him. I just think I don't really think you can get in Usyk's head though. You got to keep in mind and put into perspective. This is a man whose country has their back against the wall. You know what I'm saying? And people can say whatever they want. Because I heard them say it about Lomachenko. Oh, Lomachenko wasn't really in the war, but he still went back over there to support his country when they're going through probably some of the darkest times in their history. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then for someone to be able to deal with and stand up to something like that, Fury and his antics and his WWF like speeches aren't gonna get in Usyk's head. You know what I'm saying? And you could just look in Usyk's eye and tell look in his eyes and tell he's about business.
Mm-hmm.
So when you saw them go face to face, head to head, what was your immediate thoughts?
I was like, I wasn't surprised by it, right? Because, when it comes to the Gypsy King, you don't know what to expect, especially with some of his antics, I was just more curious about how Usyk would respond,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he kind of responded how I thought he would respond. You can just tell, like you mentioned, in his eyes, Usyk just seems more battle-hardened, right? Just as a person.
Yeah.
He have that, his funny personality, but you can just tell, like, like I remember one time he mentioned, like, yeah, boxing is just a sport, right? Like real life, like war, that's something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Boxing's child's play compared to that, right? So, I think he just really wants this fight. He's been pushing for this fight, honestly, and he played a big part in the fight actually happening. So I think, the press conference was, something I anticipated. It was good to see that there's some level of I don't want to say animosity, but some level of like, yeah, we gonna get it on, and we're not friends, right? So
Yeah.
which was interesting. What do you thought about just the overall press conference, Fury, Usyk, the
Yeah.
initial thoughts?
I just think, like Fury's, he always comes with the gimmicks, and I think it's cool. I think it's good for selling, but I just think this is one guy who's not going to feed into it like that. I think this guy is about business. He wants to fight. You know what I'm saying? If they could just fight right now, Usyk would just say, "Let's fight right now." You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
I don't really need no more prep time. I want to just do it right now. So I just think the mind games are not going to work. I think for Fury to win, you're just going to have to be a better boxer than Usyk. You know what I'm saying? You're just going to have to beat him that night. I don't think the mind games are going to work. I don't think you're going to get him out of his comfort zone. I think you're just going to have to be better than Usyk to beat Usyk.
Yep.
And I mean, I think a lot of people would think that Fury was prior to his last fight, but maybe his last fight had people maybe questioning: is he losing a step? Is he losing his edge? Do you know what I'm saying? Or you know what I'm saying? What there's a lot of questions that have popped up after that last fight. So I think the Usyk train has really expanded since Fury and Ganu.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of unanswered questions for sure. This fight is going to be very interesting, right? And I think the last fight, Fury's fight with Ngannou, definitely kind of, I would say, in people's eyes, made the Fury Usyk fight in their minds more competitive
Mm-hmm.
to a degree, right? Because I think now more people are siding with Usyk, like, no, Usyk might be able to beat Fury, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I think it kind of worked in Usyk's favor. But I'm definitely gonna watch the fight, right? Especially I believe it's in February, right? It takes
I
place.
think that's when it should be in February.
Yeah, so of course I won't give a prediction now, but as we get
Yeah.
closer, definitely gonna, drop a prediction and kind of go forth from there. So
But let me ask you this, and I know this is kind of weird when it comes to heavyweights, but if Usyk were to win and this would be a second undisputed, would you label him as the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, or would you still leave that to Bud Crawford?
oh, that would be a good argument because then I feel like when you talk about Bud Crawford, the best people Bud beat during his his path to being a two-time undisputed champion was Errol Spence, Sean Porter, right? When we're talking about like prime,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sean Porter's arguable, but I will throw him in there. The rest of the fighters, I mean, obviously, Kell Brook wasn't in his prime, and right, a lot of these other fighters weren't in their prime. So, not taking anything away from Crawford, but when you talk about Usyk, Usyk beat. I mean, you can argue if Anthony Joshua was in his prime, I guess, but then he beat Tyson Fury as well. I mean, I think it's a case to be made.
Mhm.
Um, it's a case to be made. It's definitely a case to be made because of I know what Bud Crawford can do. I'll have him over Usyk.
Mhm.
But then again, if we're just talking about the facts and accomplishments and what they've done, I'll definitely have to kind of look at their resumes,
Yeah.
how they beat their opponents, and when they beat their opponents, right? In terms of timing, like how where at what stage were their opponents at in their boxing careers, right? I think that plays a role for context, and then that will
Yeah.
determine as to and then also I gotta factor in who went out and collected the Dragon Balls one by one, right? Because that plays a role, right? If you just have two fights, if you have one belt and the other guy got three belts, and I beat you for undisputed, it's not as impressive compared to the other guy that's going and collecting the belts one
Mhm.
by one, right? For instance, like Inoue, like when he became undisputed, he collected those belts one by one, right? That's
Mhm.
more impressive. Then you got to factor in who they fought, right? So it's a formula that I'll probably have to sit down and kind of think
Yeah.
about before I kind of give my initial answer. What about you?
Yeah. It's gonna be a tough argument because even though I know people are kind of cold on Joshua, but before he got in there with Usyk, he still only had one loss, and that was the Andy Ruiz,
And
which he avenged.
Ruiz, yeah,
But then Usyk came in there and beat him. He got the rematch, and then Usyk beat him again. Do you know what I'm saying? So if Usyk were to beat Joshua not once but twice, then beat Fury, I think that's going to be a very, very impressive case. Like I said, you got to kind of sit down. I can't really tell you right now. I got to kind of like sit down and do some research. But I think it'll be an argument to be made. And I know
yeah,
sometimes it's hard to put heavyweights in pound for pound, but Usyk coming from cruiserweight to heavyweight, you know what I'm saying? I
yeah,
think he would be in there. And something that I asked you last time, I would also revisit: is he the best cruiserweight turned heavyweight? I would have to revisit that as well. Of course, you have Holyfield.
yeah.
But
And
yeah,
that's if he beats Fury, right?
yeah,
And then
yeah. If he beats Fury,
and then like he beats Fury, and then of course it can easily change, right? Because then let's say you know, Crawford really goes and fights Jermell at 154, right? And let's say he
Mhm.
beats Jermell, right? Then does that change the argument again,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it would, it
So
would,
it's
it
a lot that plays
would.
a role. It's just so much. It's like a
Yeah.
tip of that. So
Crawford has more room to continue adding to it, where Usyk is kind of like at the plateau now because there's really
yes,
nothing that comes after heavyweight. He's not gonna go down to light heavyweight to fight
right.
Brawl or you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
Exactly. He
so
didn't fight those guys since like what the amateurs. So it's just
right. So Crawford has more room to add to it, but I think it'll be a good argument, and I think maybe by then, or maybe not by then, but Inoue is probably on his way to maybe being a two-time undisputed as well. So then you're gonna be able to throw
absolutely.
him in the argument. It's gonna be a crazy argument. Yeah.
It really is. It definitely is. And I think in a way, it's definitely on track to, unless something happens, but no one's stopping that monster, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
his destructive pathway. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so we would just have to kind of wait and see, take us out, unless you have anything to add or,
No, that's it. Definitely like, comment, subscribe. We really appreciate the engagement. Keep the channel growing. Tell us what kind of topics you want to see. Probably look to switch it up. Until maybe, because we got some big fights coming up, but maybe hop in with maybe some basketball or something else. Throw a little bit of curves in there. But definitely like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you want to see. 2 cents short of $1, and we're out.